Wow, I am so thankful to be here with you folks this afternoon. These have been really thoughtful talks. We have a few questions so far. One, and I'll put this question to Megan first, and then Sue and Jean Marie, if you'd like to comment on it as well. This question is, do crisis pregnancy centers offer any real assistance to pregnant women, like diapers or prenatal health information? And one commenter replied that the local pregnancy resource center here offers free options counseling, free pregnancy tests, free ultrasounds, material needs, parenting lessons, and healthy relationship lessons in the local and middle high schools. So that's what one commenter said.
Sure. Yeah. Before I forget, I'm going to start with the comment. Increasing, I don't know if this is increasing actually, but throughout the country, I think it is increasing in recent years. The crisis pregnancy centers will work and they'll actually go into public schools and offer essentially sex ed classes and relationship classes, which is very complicated and potentially dangerous, given that a lot of the information that they're giving has not actually been vetted by like standard medical understanding, and much of it does come from this framework of you must be in a heterosexual couple that abstains from sex or else. So that is like a whole tricky, potentially dangerous situation for the counseling in terms of the schools. And yeah, a lot of these pregnancy centers, they do offer diapers, they offer baby clothes. If you're someone who is a Christian who wants to have a baby and who believes the set of beliefs that the person running the center also believes, then it is probably a positive experience showing up, because you are given help and you are embraced and your worldview is affirmed. And we should live in a world where women who young mothers are given that kind of help, like both emotional and material. And the options counseling, though, is what is not really options counseling. And that's the kind of thing. And I was thinking about this when Dr. Place was speaking. That was a beautiful talk that you gave. I was thinking about what we all do need, especially in moments in life where you have an unplanned pregnancy and you don't know what to do. It's so difficult, and you do need someone to listen to you, and you need someone who is there for you. And what I find so disturbing and upsetting is the women who are working at these centers will use that trust and use that moment of vulnerability not to listen unobjectively and with an open heart and like say to the woman, whatever you want to do, is great. And instead they will try to get the person to do what they think they should do, which is to not have the abortion. And another thing that I have observed in my reporting on anti-abortion centers is a lot of the women there had abortions and then either converted, or they felt guilty about it, or they had regret. Like, if we believe in choice, we believe in regret. And then in order to kind of compensate with that or make amends or et cetera, they then feel that it's their religious duty to persuade other women not to do that. So they'll often offer their own regret up as a way to convince someone not to have an abortion, which is so it's a lot. So there's so many layers playing out in these conversations. And I really, what Dr. Place was saying really resonated with me in terms of how much pain, like women, like all of us, anyone who's alive, we go through, right? And this moment of an unplanned pregnancy is such a moment where there may be relationship pain, there may be pain about your own relationship with your mother, there may be maybe you want the baby but you don't know if you can do it. Like, there's just so much ambivalence, fear, grief, and to have an interaction with someone at that moment who has their own agenda and is not just there to offer you medical facts is, it's such a profound thing. And I also think the fact that this is not taken seriously as like a legislative and legal issue is because it's happening to poor women. And that is, you know, that's what that is. So I'll go on forever if you'll let me, so I'll cut myself off.
Representative Arrington or Dr. Place, do either of you have any reflections on this question?
I think that it's true. I think that this crisis pregnancy center in town can support women who want to bring a pregnancy to full term. And like Megan said, it affirms their worldview, and it can likely be a very positive experience. I think the problem is when deceptive tactics are used, or there's an agenda in place to convince a vulnerable woman in the height of really a vulnerable time in her life what you believe should be done in her life. And we can't do that to people. It is that woman alone, her decision what to do. And to make that decision, she requires knowing her rights, and it requires knowing what the full range of options are so that she can make a decision in the context of her life.
I just might add that Planned Parenthood counseling for when there's a unintended pregnancy is full options counseling without any biases. Those counselors present, this is what happens with an abortion, and these are resources if you want that. If you want to carry the pregnancy to term and keep the baby, and you don't think you have enough money to be able to pull it off, well, these are the resources in town that can help you with that decision. And then maybe someone doesn't want to have an abortion, but they also don't want to raise a child. They don't think they're ready. And so the other option is adoption, or and those resources are presented. But as Megan said, you don't get that full picture when you go to a crisis pregnancy center. And as funding for organizations like Planned Parenthood is pulled back, more money is being allocated for crisis pregnancy centers. I know when Vice President Pence was governor of Indiana, he oversaw a money that was coming in on TANF. It's for women and children who are really poor. And Indiana, I think it was under his watch, had a work requirement, and I believe it's still in place. So that cut out a lot of women to be able to take advantage of that program. And so they had excess money. So what did they do? They gave it to a grant program for these crisis pregnancy centers.
Another question that we have here, relates to the question of legislation that you're talking about, Representative Arrington. One person asks, I wonder if the panelists know of any good ideas for fighting anti-abortion legislation, maybe how allies have fought them in other states.
There really hasn't been a lot of that. In Indiana, what we've tried to do is promote legislation that would provide comprehensive, medically accurate sex education in the schools, and haven't been able to get that through. Some other things I know there's a legislator who is, she's, I guess now retired, OBGYN, and she tried to get contraceptive care into counseling for women who are addicted drug addicted. And that passed, because, if you are addicted, that's the worst time to become pregnant. Because it not only affects you, it affects a child. And yet that was turned down. So here in Indiana, we have a long way to go before we can really make some headway on anything that is affirmative. It's mostly a defensive game.
Any other reflections on this question?
Something I've thought about, and I don't have an answer, is I find myself frustrated. I wish that there was a way to because of the world we live in, business decisions matter, like boycotts or making it politically infeasible for a business to do things. I wonder going forward, especially with who knows what the landscape will look like in coming years with reproductive rights, but employers count on the ability of not only women but men to limit their number of children and to get advanced degrees and to work these long hours and all of this. And I wonder if there's a way that going forward, the women's movement and reproductive justice movements can pull businesses and employers into this conversation in a way that carries more weight than, unfortunately, us. So I don't know. That's something I hope that happens. I don't know.
And I think another thing that, for lack of a better word, both sides should be able to agree on, although I think that there are divisions along ideological lines, but we should be able to agree that women who choose to raise their children should have a living wage. We should be able to agree that women who want to raise their children should be able to take paid maternity leave and have paid parental leave for the male partners or female partners in their life. Those are tend to be progressive issues, but if we want to support women who want to have children, that should be a conservative point too. And I don't see that happening, but it should be, because that's a way to support women.
You're right. We had a bill last session that was filed by a Republican woman to allow additional rest periods for pregnant women at work, particularly those that have to stand a lot. And we thought it was going to go, but it got hijacked in the Senate. And it ended up so watered down, I think it became a study committee, and it's probably died in that form. But Indiana is a hard state to be a woman in. But it makes us tougher, I guess.